Imagine spending 7 years and the modern equivalent of billions of dollars to construct the most blindingly brilliant, gold-plated monument in human history, only to stand before the crowds on opening day and declare 2 things. First, that the God you built it for actually prefers to dwell in thick darkness, and second, that he can't even fit inside the building. In 2 Chronicles 6, Solomon isn't just praying a religious prayer, he is wrestling with the tension of trying to connect with a God who is both overwhelmingly infinite and deeply personal. 2 Chronicles tells the story of Judah's relationship with God, a history of faith, failure, and hope. After King David, his son Solomon rises to power and builds the temple in Jerusalem, a breathtaking house for God. For 7 years, the nation's best craftsmen and materials are devoted to this project. When the Ark of the Covenant is placed inside, a thick cloud fills the temple, a sign of God's presence. The people stand in awe, witnessing a sacred moment as God's glory fills the house. This is more than a building. It's a symbol of God's acceptance and a focal point for worship. With the temple complete and God's presence confirmed, Solomon prepares to dedicate it with a prayer that will define its purpose. He stands before the people, ready to speak on behalf of the nation and set forth a covenant of hope and forgiveness. Solomon stands before Israel, elevated so all can see him. He praises God for fulfilling the promise made to David that his son would build the temple in Jerusalem. Solomon humbly acknowledges he is not the originator, but the inheritor of God's plan. He reminds the people that this achievement is not about human greatness, but about God's faithfulness. The Lord has fulfilled his word, Solomon declares, grounding the moment in trust and gratitude. The temple, the cloud of glory, and Solomon's kingship are all evidence of God's reliability. Solomon wants everyone to see themselves as part of a larger story, one guided by a God who keeps his promises. With history and faithfulness affirmed, Solomon kneels, spreading his hands toward heaven. The king becomes a servant, preparing to intercede for his people in prayer. Solomon's prayer begins with praise. There is no God like the Lord who keeps his covenant and shows steadfast love. He marvels that God, who cannot be contained by the heavens, would choose to dwell among his people. Solomon knows the temple is not God's literal home, but a meeting place, a symbol of connection. His main request, that God's eyes would always be on this temple, and that he would hear the prayers of his people. Wherever they are, if they turn toward this house, may God hear from heaven and forgive. The temple's true power is not in its walls, but in God's promise to listen. It stands as an anchor for faith, a reminder that God is near and attentive. Solomon's prayer centers on hearing and forgiving, ensuring a path back to God is always open. Solomon's prayer anticipates Israel's struggles, defeat, drought, famine, plague, or siege. In every crisis, he asks that if the people turn back, confess, and pray toward the temple, God would hear, forgive, and restore them. Solomon's vision is practical and hopeful. True repentance leads to renewed blessing. He pleads for God not only to forgive, but to teach the people the right way to live. The temple becomes a place of redemption, not just for Israel, but for foreigners drawn by God's name. Solomon asks that even outsiders who pray toward the temple would be heard, so all nations may know and fear God. This is a radically inclusive vision, the temple as a beacon for all humanity. In every affliction, the pattern is the same turn, pray and God will hear. The temple stands as a symbol of hope and restoration for everyone. Solomon's prayer reveals a deep understanding of sin, repentance, and forgiveness. The temple acts as a mediator, a place where heaven and earth meet and forgiveness is sought. Yet Solomon knows the building is only a symbol. The true power is in God's promise to hear. This system points forward to a greater need, a perfect mediator and a permanent solution for sin. Solomon prays for God to deal with each person according to their heart, knowing only God truly knows us. Centuries later, Jesus would fulfill this role, both the true temple and the perfect intercessor. He is the meeting place between God and humanity, offering forgiveness through his own sacrifice. Solomon's prayer, offered in faith, points to Jesus, the cornerstone of God's ultimate plan. Are you ready for the next chapter? Just click here to go straight to it.